All right, thank you. Let me turn, see if I can get my camera to turn on. See.
I think the height is okay. Yeah, but I'm not hearing people.
Oh, you can't hear us speaking? Because I know everybody else is kind of quiet. I'm probably the only one talking right now.
Yeah, I don't hear anybody.
We can hear you though.
I can hear you.
We can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I can hear them. I can hear everyone.
There, they can keep my bag. Yeah. Bonus. It's like a gift bag.
It's taking off.
Okay, I guess I'll give it a second for Dr. Marlin to make sure she could hear us, because I don't think she could hear us yet.
This needs to go there. I saw Sierra. Oh, there's Sierra.
Hey, can you hear
Oh.
us now?
I can.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay. All righty, we're gonna go ahead and call the Civilian Oversight Board meeting to order at 4:04 p.m. And I will ask Harrison to please call the roll.
Okay. Sierra Simrel,
Here.
Derek Kilgore.
Here.
Oh, sorry. Stephen Roback. Bradley Ortega.
Here.
Jennifer Whitaker.
Here.
Keith Rose. Kristen Griffin. Harrison Sands. Here. We have 5 present.
Okay. Oh, that was 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was 6, but I guess Keith's not on though. Okay. Thank you. And our next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda that is presented for June 16th?
I motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain?
I meant to say aye.
I know Jennifer's on mute too.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed, any abstain, motion carries. Our next item is the approval of March 19th meeting minutes. And just to kind of like wrap these up, has everyone have time to review the 3 different sets of minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, what about you, Derek?
Yes.
Okay, because I kind of want to bundle these if I can, Ms. Barbara, so I can
Yeah.
skip through these 3. All right.
That's fine. I
So-
would note that the March 29 and April 11, the pagination is off. Someone might want to just even change that with a pen, but nothing substantive or material. Just that.
Okay. And you said, what was it that needed to be changed?
The page numbers.
Oh, okay. But nothing as far as the records that were actually taken that day. Okay. So, is there a motion to approve the March 19th, April 11th, and April 21st of 2025 meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. So we're going to allow, I'll say, 2 minutes for public comment today, and we ask that you use the hand raising feature on your Zoom to be acknowledged, which let me find it. where you raise your hand. It should be in the reactions portion of your Zoom where you're allowed to raise your hand and be acknowledged by the host or speaking. Dr. Marlin, I'm not sure if you need them to present. I would say present your name just for the record for them to document who exactly is speaking during the current time. And of course, 2 minutes for us to go over anything. And just as an FYI, we are not able to, I guess, exactly answer anything in reference to what your comment may be specifically. We're just here to listen to your information, okay? So with that being said, are there any public comments for today? And if so, use your hand raising feature, please. Oh, Keith is on, Harrison. Okay, so just a second call. Are there any public comments that would like to be made today during this time? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the next section of the agenda for today, which is the chairperson's report. So an update on training and orientation schedule. The Civilian Oversight Board and the DFOB Board completed the last training. I believe it was it last Monday or was it the Monday? Probably the Monday before, I think. We completed the last training, which all of us actually participated in, which was very important and informative, where we did learn a lot of additional information regarding how we're to navigate our duties serving in this type of capacity. So we should be able to proceed with our process as far as what we were appointed to do as far as being board members. So I'm assuming that that will come with proper information from the staff at the office that will start with us reviewing cases, unless there's something that does change in between now and then. So just to let everyone know that all the board members have been trained. So going to the next item, which is approval of the COB 2025 work plan. I know we have overviewed this potentially, I want to say for maybe the last few months or more, in reference to it and how it needed to be in alignment with what our actual duties are and what we're tasked with in this role. So it hadn't been approved previously because we had been working on it and making adjustments, and everyone had suggestions as to what that was going to look like, as well as adhering to the state laws and such, as far as our police department and all the shifting that has happened with leadership, among other things. So I just wanted to check with the board. Did you all have any further question or concerns about the approval of the COB 2025 work plan before we put this to the floor?
No.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the Civilian Oversight Board's 2025 work plan?
I motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. And just for the sake of this record, Harrison, we're gonna do a roll call vote just to ensure that everyone is in alignment with this. So I ask for a roll call, please.
Sierra Simrel,
Yes.
Derek Kilgore,
Yes.
Bradley Ortega,
Yes.
Jennifer Whitaker,
Yes.
Keith Rose,
Yes.
Harrison Sand. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So with 5 and no abstains and no
6.
objections, 6. Sorry, thank you for telling me that. I keep
You're good.
forgetting Keith got on. Keith, I counted you earlier and then you weren't on, and I'm like, okay, now you are on. Okay. With the motion passing and approving, we have approved the 2025 work plan for the Civilian Oversight Board for 2025. The next item on here is the COB 2025 Community Engagement Plan. Now, this is separate in reference to our community engagement as far as what we discussed being board members in our respective districts, as well as educational pieces and how we want to meet people where they are. And with this is not something that would, Dr. Marlin, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just something that we're adopting as board members. So this isn't something that we have to actually vote on. This is just something voluntary that we're stating that we're wanting to do. Is that correct, Dr. Marlin?
It is. That's what I
Okay.
understand. Many of these activities we had in the work plan initially, but we took those things out that were not in conformance with the state statute.
Yes. Okay. So just wanted to give that piece to the public that may be participating today, just for them to be aware that each one of us represent a certain number of wards, and we're all broken up by districts, and we're wanting to potentially be more engaged with the public since majority of the board is new, and having some type of dialogue and community outreach during our tenure in this capacity. So that was, I believe, the last thing that we had on here. I did very much enjoy our roundtable that we had. That was the first one that we have had with the Civilian Oversight Board, and it was very informative. I forgot how many people actually attended, but it was a lot of people online and in person that showed up. And it was really good dialogue and questions. And of course, a lot of questions, I guess, around uncertainties of what direction we're heading, right? With everything that we notice, obviously, in our face daily, in reference to our police department. So just wanted to share that. I hope that a lot more people are able to come out and just engage, or at least just get the information in reference to exactly what we're able to do as far as our capacities and how the public can actually assist us in those endeavors. So I will go to the next item on the agenda, which is the commissioner's report, and yield to Dr. Mylan.
Yes, Madam Chair, we did have a total of 51 people in attendance, both in person as well as online. I agree with you. I think it was highly successful. I really appreciated the fact that Chief Tracy was in attendance and several other of our police officers were in attendance at this meeting, including Lieutenant Harris. And I don't have the information in front of me, but I believe Lieutenant Harris is with the Force Investigative Unit, and several other officers were at that meeting. So I have provided a written May report, which I hope everyone has received that report. And we talk about the success of the roundtable program. And we have been in touch with St. Louis University. I've been in my second meeting with St. Louis University Criminology Department. And then several staff members were with me for an online meeting on Friday. So we feel very positive about the meeting that we had with Dr. Zeltic and also Associate Professor Kenya Brumfield-Young. They are assisting us with getting a student involved with our office. And that student primarily will be assisting our government. They will be assisting Dotlin with our data analytics. We also may have them involved with some marketing support, as well as assistance to our investigators. We had a meeting in the mayor's office, and that meeting, the mayor suggested having a commendation of police officers. In my mind, it's police officers, but I believe they want to look at it very broadly as first responders, which possibly could include other offices of law enforcement as well. Already, we have 2 commendations that we've received, and we really haven't completely launched the program, primarily because of the devastation of the tornado and the efforts that have been pulled together to support our neighbors regarding the tornado. But we expect that we will be able to have the commendation program activated very soon. The commendation will be a written letter appreciating police officers, and it will be signed by the mayor. I have also suggested that we might have our director of public safety also sign that commendation. We had a meeting scheduled with Circuit Attorney Gore. Unfortunately, the circuit attorney expressed that he was not willing to provide reports to our office. He thought that the reports that we would be interested in could come from the police department. So we will be meeting with the police department again in July. This month's meeting, we usually meet on the second Monday of each month. For the month of June, we're in June.
Yeah.
One of the Lieutenant Sack had medical considerations. I think it's Major Janet Boxstruck she was just returning, or her hours were changing so that they were later in the evening when our office is closed. And we also had some officers that were on vacation. That's why we canceled this month's meeting. But my hope is that we will be able to meet in July. We had an opportunity to participate on the radio program with Ms. Jamala Rogers, and the focus of that opportunity was primarily centered on the Civilian Oversight Board. She has extended an invitation to us to come back so that we can discuss our work with detention facilities, and that meeting is going to be in July. I'm proud of our staff who contributed, and we raised $750 to support neighbors impacted by the tornado. And we gave those funds to the Urban League Disaster Recovery Fund. I believe that's it for me on my report at this time. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Hi, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. This is Leanne Mosby, Director of Community Engagement for Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore. I just want to clarify something. I was in that meeting with you. He did not say that he was unwilling to share those videos. He said that that was not our process, that he clarified that you have to go back to PD and ask for those from PD. So it's not our responsibility to do so. He wasn't unwilling to, he can't. He was sharing with you that that's PD's responsibility.
Your point is well taken. I do need to indicate that following our meeting with Circuit Attorney Gore, that I provided to him various ordinances that identify the circuit attorney working with our office, especially as it relates to information. And for instance, we provided 71749 ordinance, 71430 ordinance, and the Executive Order 79 was also provided. So it would be, we would like to have his cooperation and his office cooperation. Reddick, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was in that meeting too, and there were several of us who left with the same impression. I think his language was, I will never.
I'm not trying to debate your
I think what his intent was, we couldn't read. All we could do was listen to his spoken word. And he said, okay, I will never give you all an FIU report.
That's not what he said.
No, I was there.
What's said, and I was there too. So again, I'm not trying to debate.
Point of order.
Your impression.
Point of order. This is the Civilian Oversight Board meeting. Really only COB members should be speaking right now, or people that are listed on the agenda.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So why are we,
Conversation
thank
should
you for
probably happen
clarifying.
after the meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just would, since we're invited in to these meetings, I thought that we could speak. And then when I hear someone say something that I believe to be incorrect, since you are recording it, I just wanted to go on a record to clarify that understanding. So thank you for your point. I will
Understood.
take this back to him. Thank you.
Okay, also
Thank
another, I'm
you.
sorry, another point of order before you go on, Ms. Whitaker. Ms. Mosley, it's Mo Mosby, I'm sorry. It is
You're fine.
the
You're fine.
process of our board. If you are to speak with us, we would like people to turn their camera on when speaking, and I think that's standard throughout all city
Okay.
government.
Okay, that's not a problem either. Thank you for clarifying that as well.
Okay, go ahead, Jennifer. And then I'll say my statement probably after this.
Okay, I was kind of puzzled because I heard the commissioner say reports, but then I heard Ms. Mosby say videos. So is there a difference? And that was one of the questions that I was going to ask, and the commissioner really covered it all. What are our policies? What are the ordinance? How does the ordinance read that says or ask that the circuit attorney cooperate with us?
So, okay, so I kind of don't want to deep dive off of the cliff into this because it sounds like we have to potentially, I think this is definitely going to have to be a closed session discussion for us to go deeper into exactly what it is. Barbara, and I know we accepted this agenda, and that's where I'm kind of like, if you could kind of tell me, I know since we accepted it and we voted to accept the agenda, but I'm really wanting to know, I guess, if it's something that we should hold off and put closed session or have a special meeting potentially to further discuss this and maybe yield time for Ms. Mosby to potentially have that dialogue with us. So then we can find out more information in reference to it. Because what I don't want to do is have it in an open session and it's pertaining to our functionalities or anything like that and put us in jeopardy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're interpreting the ordinance, but frankly,
Yeah.
nobody probably arrived or with the view towards discussing this from all aspects of the law. It's just simply not on the
Yeah.
agenda, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, so we could, I guess, assess it potentially where we can schedule something. Are you all okay with that? Potentially scheduling something so then that way we can engage in the actual dialogue for what everyone's really wanting to know. So then that way we're not doing it and potentially coming too close to putting ourselves in anything.
I appreciate that.
Keith.
I appreciate the clarification, Madam Chair. I'm trying to see if the person who is making the comments, if she's still on the line, but
Yeah,
if
she's
she
still on.
is, okay, please
Yeah.
know that we would welcome the opportunity to follow up with you and clarify our understanding and the response that Circuit Attorney Gore provided at our meeting. So thank you for speaking up. But Madam Chair, as you have directed us, we can follow up following today's meeting. And
Yes.
I just need to make sure I have her name. I don't see it. I hope one
Miss
of my
Leanne, Leann, and last name Mosby.
You have it, Dr. Mylan. We've emailed a few times. So I'm the same person that has been emailing with you. And then I was also in that meeting with you and Reddit and Louisa, along with the circuit attorney, myself, and then his first assistant, Steve Capizzi.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mosby.
Yes, ma'am, you're welcome.
I'll follow up following today's meeting so we can discuss this further.
Yes, ma'am. Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chairwoman.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to
Keith.
quickly address. So I understand somewhat that you were saying maybe we should talk about this in closed session. I didn't hear a explicitly articulated reason to go into closed session as required by the Sunshine Law. And I just want to make sure we remind ourselves and also the public who's watching is just because something is dicey or might not be politically easy to talk about, that doesn't mean it's a closed session issue. We only go into closed session whenever there are certain of a very clearly enumerated list of reasons where we go into closed session. And so just because we might not want to have a hard conversation in public, it doesn't mean that we're allowed to have it in private.
That is correct.
Right.
I don't know from what we had going on today. I don't know if you're seeking legal advice from it. I mean, it's just nothing that was prepared for today. So
Right.
we need
And
to take a good look at what will actually happen.
that's what I didn't want to get too deep into, because I understand that with the board, this would be something that you all would potentially have a lot of questions in reference to. And what I didn't want to do was go deep into it during this time frame in which we get there, and then it's like we have to go on a closed session at that point. Since we did adopt the agenda, I didn't want to take us down a slippery slope today. But no, I appreciate what you said,
I'm
Keith.
sorry, Chairwoman. Oh, thank you, Keith, and everybody. I just wanted to be very clear that I am not, you guys are not under the impression that I am asking for a closed session, right? I just want to make sure that that's okay.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
It's just
got
mainly
it.
for us, for our documentation
Okay.
purposes with Sunshine Law, because of course,
Perfect.
once those conversations get started, you get more
Mhm.
specific with information based on what our
Sure.
investigators are doing. And that's what I didn't want to travel into, that because this is an
Okay.
open session. So that's why I
Perfect.
was
Okay.
saying, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, understandable. And I understand we're not on the agenda. I just,
Yeah.
I, from my interpretation, I just needed to be, since this is recorded, I just needed to clarify what I heard him say. But anything else I can take back to them. And I just did not want on the record a statement saying that he was unwilling to cooperate to be out there. So thank you.
I understand. I understand. But thank you though for your comment. I lost my spot on the agenda, and I don't even
Madam
Dr.
Chair,
Mike,
if I may, I'd like to call on Louisa to provide an update on the investigation report, please.
I'm sorry, Commissioner,
Hey,
before we move on, the open topic was questions about your report, and I did have one that was
yeah, I
separate
think
from
that's what
Mr.
that's where
Thor.
we left off at.
So if I may, my question is, I didn't quite understand the portion about commendations. Could you elaborate on that?
Director Dace and I met with Mayor Spencer, and I believe her chief of staff was also in that meeting, and her name escapes me right now. The purpose of the commendation is when citizens have an experience with police officers or another first responder, they will have the opportunity to say, this officer assisted me, how the officer assisted them, and why they appreciate the services that were rendered. That is the commendation program. And it was very interesting to me because it actually had come up in our office a while back, and based on the discussions, we decided not to move forward. So I'm really pleased that the mayor is interested in this. The emails that I have received have been situations where they had to call the police. In one instance, it was something to do with the vehicle, and the police were there. They assisted them, and not only assisted them, they were able to get the vehicle back to the couple. So those are the kinds of things that I think are very appropriate to highlight when we find our first responders doing an excellent job.
I see. Okay. And in so much as it's coming from this body or the Department of Civilian Oversight, it would be my preference that the same standard of diligence is applied in investigation of accommodation as it is to a complaint. And so to me, it would be inappropriate if we are not releasing any concluded investigations into complaints and then start releasing accommodations and putting, those into individual files, if that makes sense. Because I would be concerned if it's only if we just take someone at their word for a commendation, but we don't take them at their word for a complaint. And I do understand that the statute from the state and also in the ordinance has specific requirements for complaints to be substantiated. I just think that it would also make sense for us to have similar standards for commendations that are being officially put out by the DCO.
May I ask the commissioner? I don't think that the board was being asked to do that. The way I reflected in my notes was that this was something that was discussed at the meeting she was reporting, and she's under the Board of public safety, and I think she was saying that he might sign off on that. So if this is some, I don't think this is a task of the board. It doesn't fall in line with the statutory tasks. Am I incorrect here?
Yeah,
No,
it's
you're
the
right.
mayor's recommendation. And there's a website that will support the commendation program. But your point's well taken, Keith. And what I'm hearing is as much due diligence that we provide for investigations, we also need to have verifiable evidence of authentication of someone commending an officer. So your point's well taken.
Okay, thank you.
Can
So,
we proceed with having
Luis.
well,
Oh, sorry.
Louisa, and also we want to hear from Dotlin regarding requirements for reports that are coming up later this year. Louisa?
Good evening, everyone. I put together a little small PowerPoint presentation, but the presentation I did put together, and I'm going to modify it a great deal because I didn't know how many individuals we have. There will be the general public may not be aware of our complaint process and go into the investigation. So I may reiterate some things you already know. It may be sound redundant to some of you because you've been on the board for quite a while, but Answar, can you allow me to share my screen? Okay. 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 Share. Okay. This is going as big as I want it to be. Oh, okay. Can you see the screen? Or I'm not seeing.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm not seeing what you're seeing. But anyway, this is to talk about the complaint process. For those individuals who are not aware, you can come to our office and file a complaint. We call our complaint form the JCCF. And so that is the mechanism that we have set in place for the general public to come in and file a complaint. You can come in person, or you can do it online, or you can also call our office and ask us to mail you a form. And you can also come to our office, which is located 1520 Market in room 4029. The complaint process, I'm going to go through, and I will say this also. What I've put together will eventually be put on the website. So individuals who want to file a complaint will have information going from the beginning to the end of a general outline of what happens with the complaints. The complaints that we do receive, they are reviewed by the investigative staff. When I say reviewed by the investigative staff, we're looking at when individuals come into our office and they bring a file a complaint, we're looking at the narrative they're using for us, the statements they're making for us, the allegations against the police department or the police officers. We're looking to make sure that they are doing the who, what, when, where, how, and why of the statement, because a lot of times we found that individuals come in and their emotions are heightened, and at that time they may write 2 or 3 pages of something based on how they felt, which is not. We're not negating that, and that's important, but we also need certain facts like what happened, where did it occur, did you have any witnesses, do you have any video, did you record anything, any documentation you have, if there's any injuries, things of that nature are very important for us, because what we do when we do get those complaint forms, Internal Affairs with the city of St. Louis Police Department does the investigation themselves. We do not do the investigation. So therefore, when we do not get the information we may need in order to warrant a full-fledged investigations, sometimes what may happen is we may decide that there's not enough information to move forward, or it might be something as simple as not in our jurisdiction, because we only do St. Louis Metropolitan Police officers, not the county. So sometimes we do get complaints involving the county. They have their own website to handle those type of situations. Or you may not give us enough information. So if you do that, what will happen is we'll review it and we'll send you a letter saying we have deemed that your complaint is is not sufficient. Now, if you receive a letter from us saying your complaint is insufficient, that does not mean that you cannot follow up, contact our office and give us additional information, or that you cannot complain in the future about that particular incident. So make sure if you do get that, call our office. Our number here is area code 314-657-1600. Speak to someone in the office and we can explain in further details why we decided it was not deemed sufficient. But when it is deemed sufficient, we take your complaint and it's forwarded over to Internal Affairs. Now, one of the things that that's going to really have impact on the board members, that we have some board members who are new to how the process goes. When we get a complaint and we have said it's sufficient, any documents we receive from the complainant are forwarded over Internal Affairs. We have a mechanism called the box. And so it's electronically sent to Internal Affairs. Anything we receive is given to them. If you come later on, if it's 2 or 3 weeks later, you say, oh, I have some additional information, you can contact our office and we can still provide that information to Internal Affairs using the same mechanism. Now, what Internal Affairs is deemed to do is to look at all your information. They will also at some point in time contact the complainant and schedule an interview. I want you to know that when you schedule an interview, one of the investigators in our office also will be contacted so we can be present during that interview. Sometimes the interviews are held at 1915 Olive in the Internal Affairs office, and there are times that the interviews are held at the Civilian Oversight Office at 1520 Market. So that can be done. So I want to let individuals to know that you do not have to go to Internal Affairs to have your interview. You can have it here in our office. When you do come, get ready to have your interview, the investigator who's assigned to your complaint will probably contact you and let you know that they're the individual who will be sitting in on your interview and ask you, do you have any additional information, kind of prepare you for the process. So you'll be ready, and if there's anything else you haven't thought of, you can make sure you have that information. So when Internal Affairs comes over, you can give them that information as well. And anything that you have given us when you filed a complaint, you will get a copy of it for yourself to take back with you. So I want to let you know that. So if you come in and you have medical reports and things of that nature, we will make copies, but we'll make copies that will give you your original documentations back. When Internal Affairs complete their investigation, they send back what they have reviewed to the DOC investigators. And what we'll get is your original complaint, any documentations that you may have included for as evidence, for as medical reports, police accident reports, witness statements, things of that nature. We will receive all that back, in addition to what they may have also compiled as well. Because sometimes what happens is they will also get the body cam footage from the officers. They may get camera footage from, if it happened at a service station or somewhere at an intersection, they can retrieve that type of information. So we get that information back and evidence back as well. When it comes into our office, I will tell you this, that it may take them several weeks to get the report back to us. It may take us several weeks as well. Give you a prime example. We have an investigation came back here recently, and there were approximately 80 videos that came back with that investigative report. The investigators in our office are responsible for looking at every piece of documentation. So the investigator who was assigned that case had to look at all 80 camera footages and give a report on what he saw in each one of those videos. We do a complete and thorough investigation. We also, if we find that the Internal Affairs, we look at something and we say, but they did not question this one particular witness. They talked to the complainant, but they didn't talk to the complainant's witnesses. We will actually contact those witnesses, and we can do what they call an investigative inquiry, and we can take it a little bit further, and we can also have them come in, and we'd also contact Internal Affairs at that time as well, and we sit down and have an interview with that individual. If we find that there's we look at special orders for the police department, because when the police department does an investigation, they're supposed to look for violations of their special orders. And what they do is they give us back a report. They may mention a particular section, the officer violated this order, or they didn't violate something. We're looking at those same special orders as well as additional ones. So if we find that they didn't do a complete and thorough investigation, we document that. We have to generate what you call an investigative report that goes to the board. That report is then use the same mechanism we used before. It goes into what you call the box. So like next month, the board members will be actually, for the first time in quite a while, be actually hearing actual cases. So we're lining them up already. So you'll be getting probably a good week or two in advance. You will receive a notification from our office via email, letting you know that you will go to the box. You'll get instructions to go there, and all the cases that we will be presenting at the next meeting, you'll have an opportunity to review all the documentation that we reviewed as well. That means that when you have the meeting, you can have you've already prepared to ask any additional questions. You're also prepared to vote, because although we do our investigative report, we may make recommendations that we agree or disagree with the findings that Internal Affairs has on their reports. You know, when we get their reports back from them, go a little bit further, they may actually have let me go to it. They may, when they give a report back to us, they may sustain that report, not sustain it, might find unfounded, exonerated, or other findings. And when other findings, a lot of times, it's like they may say that the officer may need additional training. We look at all those things. We look at all the allegations that the complainant has on in their statements. So if we find that Internal Affairs did not address all the allegations, we will also make mention of that fact in our investigative report. And we will also go a step further, and we will determine whether or not the allegation was valid or invalid, and come up any type of additional evidence that we can come up with to say, this is what they did not do, this is what we found. Let me know if you have any questions at the end, because I'm going to go a little bit further. So when I talk about, I mentioned earlier about the evaluation process, it is intense, very intense, because a lot of times we will get calls from the complainant asking, what's the status of our report, of our investigation? And we'll let them know. If we have received something back from Internal Affairs, we will let them know, hey, we received your investigation back from Internal Affairs. Whatever their findings were, we'll let them know. We'll also let them know that we're reviewing it as well. So because the investigation is not complete until the DCO investigators present it to the board. The board has the final say on what the outcome will be of any investigation. So they may decide they agree with Internal Affairs or may not agree with Internal Affairs. They may ask us to do a little bit additional investigation on the complaint. They may also ask us to send it back to Internal Affairs, depending on what the circumstances are. So next month, I can tell you right now, we're gearing up to possibly have maybe 10 investigative reports that we want to present to the board. And right now, as of this year alone, we have received 117 complaints for 2025. So you know we have quite a few complaints to review. Any questions? Because I know I went through that kind of fast.
And I'll specify and say,
okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was just gonna say specifying board member questions specifically, just so we don't run into anything else.
I know. I'm not gonna let you get into anything legal.
Yeah.
I'm just talking in general, because I know that there's individuals other than yourselves who might be listening, might have a question to clarify something. I know Chairwoman Sierra Cimarron, I know you've been on the board for quite a while, but there's individuals who's new to this. So for them to see the complaints in the box, and I do mean you will see everything. There's nothing that we're going to review that you will not get a chance to review as well. So that's very important. I see Jennifer's hand up.
Yes, thank you for your presentation so far. It's very informative. I have a question regarding the St. Louis County
Mhm.
complaints that's received.
Right.
Have we established some type of relationship with St. Louis County where,
So, keep going.
where we would, I guess, forward it to them, or they could forward a complaint to us if they received a complaint from us? I mean, a city complaint that was received in St. Louis County?
Thank you for asking that question. Yes, we have. When we receive a complaint that's definitely something for the county, we actually contact the county and we forward them that complaint, and we let the complainant know that we have forwarded that complaint and who they need to contact. And they do the same thing, vice versa. So we have established that rapport with them, and we've done that in the past.
All right, thank you.
Harrison?
Yeah, I've got two questions. Thank you, Louisa. Wonderful presentation, first of all. And then I also wanted to ask, so you said that people could be interviewed at the police station on Olive, the police department, or the 1520 Market location for the Division of Civilian Oversight. Is this something they're made aware of, or do they have to ask to be interviewed at a different place?
Well, when the complainant comes into our office, we tell them that when they're here, that they can be either interviewed at 1915 Olive or in our office, because we do understand the fact that it's more comfortable in our setting. Because when they come to our office, our investigators are here. Internal Affairs actually comes over to our office. The same process is followed. All interviews are audio and video recorded. So at that time, Internal Affairs receives a recording. We have a recording of that as well. And when we go to their office, they give us the same information as well. So it's shared. Also, when you come to our office, we have been able to, if you get an opportunity to park in the Enterprise garage, then we're able to validate your parking, because parking is it's horrendous in this area. And one of the reasons why sometimes when the complainant comes in, we let them know that information. Also, when we see the complaint, our investigators will actually call the complainant, explain the process of what they can expect for is the whole from the beginning, what happens to your complaint, who's doing the actual investigation. When you get it back, what we do with the information that we receive, because it might be a little bit confusing to an individual to say, civilian oversight, I can file a complaint with them, but yet I'm getting a call from the Internal Affairs Department. And that can be a little bit kind of disconcerting. So we explain to them what the process is. And it definitely explain to them that our role is to monitor what they're doing for their investigations. We are to review to make sure they're not being biased, they're following all their own special orders, and violations are being addressed, allegations are being addressed. So that way they put the person more at ease as to what's being going on, because it's accountability, getting the general public to feel comfortable with this whole process is something new. And so the more information we can give the complainant, the more we can put them at ease. And I'll also say this, we have complaints that we have received, and during the process, we might hear from, before it's completed by ID or ourselves, we may hear from that person every month. Some people call us every week. So, you know, for the public, we want them to stay in contact with us, because it's all about, we are civilian oversight. And that's who we're kind of like being the liaison to make sure with that voice and give them that venue they can use in order to file their complaint. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had one more question. Could we get a copy of the slides just so I can
Yes,
look
you
at
are.
them later?
I am going to give you a copy of the slides. As a matter of fact, there are some things, the slide that you all will give would be a little bit more involved, because I'll give more information about the box itself. And the reason I did not put it in the slide that's going out to the general public, because that's confidential. You know, the box that was shared between the police department and our office is not one that the general public should even have the website address or things of that nature, but you will have that information.
That makes sense. Thank you, Louisa.
Jennifer?
Really quick, we're talking about interviews, correct, with the public?
We're talking about, well, let me ask you this question. Are you talking about the complainant, when they come into our office, they can be interviewed here? Also, their witnesses can be interviewed
Yes.
here too as well.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Yes.
So question, are those interviews recorded?
Yes.
And if not, okay, and is Zoom a possibility, especially for individuals that may be disabled or may not be able to, get to your office?
Excellent question. We have in the past, we do have a Zoom link, and if we need to, we have actually did Zoom with individuals who couldn't come in. We've also done telephone interviews as well, because not
Okay.
everybody has a computer, okay? Let's admit
Yes.
that. So we can do a telephone recorded interview, same thing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Donlin, can you please provide the information about the reports that are due later this year?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get into the report section that's due in the near future, I just wanted to make it known that the revised 2020 to 2023 Civilian Oversight Board combined quarterly and annual accountability report has been published. It has been posted to the Civilian Oversight Board website. Per the Ordinance 71749, Section 9F, annual oversight reports are due. Those are coming up, and those are to be published not later than August 1st of each year. So each board is supposed to provide information regarding that. If there are any data that needs to be studied and charted, if you could get those to me so I can start working on those. So COB board will need to prepare an annual oversight report which describes the programs, the initiatives, projects, and routine and ongoing tasks undertaken in the preceding fiscal year. And it has to be prepared and published by August the 1st of each year. And this is regarding the work that's set forth in your work plans for each fiscal year. There is also supplemental information to that the board can supplement the annual oversight report by such periodic report as it sees fit. So those are the only reports. In the meantime, working on the collection and cleaning of data for 2024. So those reports should be rolling out soon.
Madam Chair, regarding Dotland's report and call to the COB regarding the due date of August the 1st, should we look to you and a member of the other officers to provide that report? I think one thing you want to report on is your work plan. You have a work plan, you have a
Yeah.
community engagement report.
Yeah, and that's what I was
you,
thinking about.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
several things that you can report on.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, whatever helps. So, Dotland, whatever you want to do, I'm game for it. So we can make it work. Me, Derek, Harrison, Jennifer, Keith. It's like we could pretty much come together and figure out how we can do that. So,
Dotland, do you want to provide a due date in order to meet that August 1 deadline?
Now is June.
yeah.
We only have like one month and what, a few days, 1.5 months to have it published. So we're looking at probably we got to get it done in 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
What do you want from us exactly to get this done?
Well, the board members, those are the ones that will be putting the report together. If you have data that you want me to look at and chart for you, I can definitely do that and provide narrative for those data. What you guys pretty much did pretty much will be coming from you. We could all assist in looking at once it's combined and make any suggestions for improvement. And once it's approved, I'll be happy to post that to the city's website.
So just for context, just to make sure I'm thinking the same thing that you're telling us about, because I know like previous reports, like when we tracked information, it may have been like the years comparable, but pretty much we would be working with you to find out what exactly we want to be in that specific report, right?
Well, according to Ordinance 71749,
Yeah.
Section 9F, it talks about the purpose, the priorities, the goals, your timelines.
Yeah.
It's whatever you included in your accountability plan, in your work plan.
Okay. So I guess so, like for example, in reference to, well, I guess we wouldn't, because if you say no ordinance, then that means we wouldn't be able to include any of the community aspect of it because it will be focused directly on the work plan that relates to the ordinance.
I believe you could also include your community engagement activities as well, just specifying these are the work plan activities and these are our community engagement activities.
Okay. All right, that's what I needed to know, so we could at least have some type of starting point. But Dotlin, I guess I'll reach out to you so we could talk further in reference to exactly what it is, and I can at least have a visual for exactly what
Okay.
it is in front of me so I can see it. But that
Looking forward to that.
helps a lot though. You've been doing your thing. Thank you, darling.
You're welcome. I'm
So-
here to serve
I'd like to add
and
whenever
get paid.
Mhm.
thank you, Datlin. I really appreciated the last report I read. That was great. One of the things that I was thinking about trying to read it from a community perspective is it was very quantitative and there was very little emphasis on qualitative data. And I think that uh, we are losing some people who care a lot about these issues when we don't include qualitative information. And so some things that I'm just off the top of my head thinking about where we could draw that from is maybe pulling out some insightful or concise quotes that were said during the roundtable or whenever folks were on the radio program, and like putting them in quotes and using them to add color to the conversation to help people move beyond the tables and the bar graphs and start thinking about how it's impacting real people's lives. And so even a few of those things I think would, dramatically add to the comprehension of the report.
Yeah.
So grounding it not just in changing metrics, but also how this is interacting with the conversations that we're also hearing in the community.
Point is well taken. And as we go forward, in the beginning stage, there was not much activity happening with COB, but as we go forward and more things are beginning to happen, that we will start seeing a little bit more of that too. Appreciate your input.
In regards to renovations for our reception area, the renovation request was approved by Director Coyle. We got approval to use some of our budget line items for the renovation. We've had contact with the city facility management. The city management got a quote around $25,000, some between 20 and 28. But because we're going to use the city facility management, that cost is greatly reduced. So right now we're looking at probably under $5,000. And the materials have been requested, and you'll hear more about that soon. And I think that's all that we have to present this afternoon.
Okay, I think the last thing it said May monthly report. I wasn't sure if that was something or.
Was there a conflict of interest too? I think that was
Thank
under
you,
G.
Harrison. Yes, 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 yes. We sent out a conflict of interest policy and recommendation. There is a requirement of confidentiality for staff as well as board members, but I did not see any form that addresses conflict of interest. So we provided that information to you and just want to make sure that you, if you have questions about it or concerns about it, we need to address that. If there's no question about the conflict of interest, what we will do is we will send it back out and request the signatures from everyone.
Oh,
and yes, Barbara.
Commissioner, yeah, I shared language with you. I don't know if it made it to everyone else, but any conflict of interest policy for this board should add that I understand that I'm bound by law to follow all conflict of interest laws, both state and local, as a member of the board, notwithstanding anything in the policy. And I understand I would acknowledge and follow Missouri Revised Statutes 105 in point 450 through 467. The City of St. Louis gift policy in 4.02 of the code should also be included, and all other applicable laws. I mean, that would make this specific to the City of St. Louis board.
Barbara, can you send me
Yes.
that information and we will incorporate it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Barbara, I have one question. When it says gift, is it more specific to say exactly what that means in context?
The City of St. Louis has a gift policy and it's codified there. I mean, in a nutshell, it's anything that would be received, you know, it's the value of it. So if someone brought, you know, a Thanksgiving ham or something, if it exceeds a certain value, you need to fill out a gift form and it's you know, becomes a public record. It's a guideline, but everybody should be aware of it.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna say, yeah, because that was part of the oath that we took when we were sworn in, as
Yes.
far as not accepting expenditures and all of that.
Yes,
So
right.
yeah. Okay. Dr. Marlon, did you have anything else?
I did have a question
Good.
about the conflict of interest language. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. So I originally had asked about this specifically because I was concerned, what if someone who I had had a client relationship with or someone else on the board had a client relationship with had been a complainant? And that didn't seem explicitly addressed in the language that was sent out. It was more about like preventing us from, you know, taking bribes and things like that. And I'd appreciate if there was a little bit more mention of that just to help understand like what the procedure should be. Um, and one of the things that's confusing is as it's written right now, it says we need to disclose and I think like the nature of the conflict, but it would also be improper for some of us to say like maybe people who are healthcare professionals on the board to say like, oh, this person has sought mental health treatment from my employer. So I think that there also needs to be a way to state that there is a conflict without being explicit at the nature of the conflict, if that makes sense.
Do you have any recommendation on the language for that?
I mean, I don't
I mean, would it be if it was simply stated that there was a matter related to an individual that's personal in nature?
Yes, that's
Without
what we
going
used to
into
do.
details, would that be acceptable?
That's what we used to do in our confidentiality agreement, where if it was someone that you knew, like even if it was an officer that you knew and you knew more personally in that situation, usually during those cases being heard, you of course you see the name prior to the review of the case. So when we get in that closed session, that's usually when the board member says, hey, I have to recuse myself from this particular case. And normally we don't go into detail as to how the relationship is, because of course, once that board member recuses themselves, that's pretty much it. That's normally what our practice was before. But the confidentiality, of course, is protection of having discussion outside of that setting. But we never had anything in writing in reference to what the nature of the relationship was and all those different things. We never did that. The person just recused themselves and left it alone. They did not vote. They did not have any dialogue or anything during the exact information, or if there were questions, they totally stayed out of the information that was being provided. So I mean, I hope that kind of helps, because then that way, if it is something where if it does deal pertaining to healthcare or something of that sort and the complainant comes through, then that would just mean that, hey, don't engage in any of it, because we don't want you to compromise yourself as well as the integrity of the investigation that we're reviewing.
Okay, good to know. We'll follow
Go
up
ahead.
regarding that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I agree, because I think when you start talking about different type of health situations professionally anyway, you start looking at, you might go into like HIPAA violations that I don't think we really want to deal with at all.
Well, and then too, to elaborate on that, you don't know what the case file is, where certain information is going to be provided anyway. So that's why it's important to just go ahead and recuse yourself from it, because you don't want to implicate yourself if you are working in that type of setting. It's just best to just leave it alone and walk away, whether you know the officer, the complainant, you know, a witness that's listed that the investigators may be questioning at that time. It's just better to just step away altogether. So then we don't have any legal issues or anything later with someone saying, oh yeah, I know so-and-so from blah, blah, blah. And then they do tell it, but then you heard their case and voted on it. So I hope that answered what you were asking, Keith.
It did. I think, Commissioner, if instead of just saying a personal relationship, I think it would be helpful for me if you also said professional, just because most of the relationships I envision having would be professional and not personal relationships.
Point well taken.
Okay. Are there any more questions in reference to that particular subject from any board members? Okay. Dr. Mylan, I saw the May monthly report on the item F underneath you. Did we cover that, or was that something that we're?
No, you should
Okay.
have received a written May report from me.
Yeah.
Okay, that is, and I kind of went over that one in my comments earlier. If I may, I did send an email out. We are looking at contacting the Missouri Directors of Civilian Oversight Boards to participate in a roundtable. And we are going to be, I contacted them a while back and received the name and contact information of several other directors. So we will be following up. We'll provide you the information regarding the roundtable. It's been suggested that we were planning to do this virtually, but it seems that some people would also like the opportunity to meet face to face. So we'll probably have a hybrid location regarding the roundtable. So you'll hear more about that soon.
Okay, thank you. And the next item on the agenda, thank you all for your presentations and all the information that you all gave us. Sorry. Yes, I'm getting winded on here. So thank you everyone for your presentation, Dr. Louisa, Dr. Mylan. That was great information and all those different things, because it is vital and it's important for the public to be aware of exactly what's going on with our particular branch of community. So thank you for that. So our next item is going to be new business. From my understanding, I do not believe we have any. Unless I'm missing something.
I've got something kind of. I was just thinking about our current agenda. We have public comments now before the chairperson report and commissioners report. I know we were trying to bring that earlier before closed session. Maybe we should do that after the reports. So like today, you know, when Leanne Mosby wanted to make a comment, she would have been able to make a comment after those reports.
And that's usually what would have happened, but the reason that we moved it up was due to us having to go into closed session before. So it may be potentially, I guess, noteworthy, maybe with the staff, like when we create the next agenda, maybe potentially offering maybe 2 sections for it, where it's like only in the event, like if we're going into closed session, that we do it before the closed session, because obviously we don't know how long we're going to be in closed session. And that was the problem that we ran into before, where people dropped off. But then in the event that we didn't have it today, we could have bumped it down, but that's okay. I mean,
Could we have it right before closed session normally? So it would have still been after the reports, but before closed session, so people wouldn't have to hang around.
Well, that's what I was saying. So
Oh,
like
okay, sorry. I misunderstood.
once we start having to go into closed session to hear those cases, we'll have to keep it up high. So then we're not keeping them waiting. Or
Yeah.
unless we communicate to the public a specific time for like after we come back out of closed session to say, hey, because that's what we did years ago, where we were kind of like, hey, like the open session portion starts at this time. So then it would allow people to get online at that time after we came out of closed session. So it would just mean that we would have to be very diligent with our time in closed session to make sure we get out so we can do the public comment portion. So I mean, so it's either or. We have options, whichever one works. But of course, that's going to be based off of what we're going to be looking at and what gets put in that box.
Also, Sierra, at that time, we also had two links. We had the link for open session, we had a link for closed session, like she said. So everybody knew it. Usually we had at 5 o'clock, they knew open session started, and everybody came in at that time.
Yeah, and that was when I was going back to the ratification of the votes taken in closed session, because honestly, when you look at 7 or 10 cases, you're not going to remember exactly how you voted on each one. So that would give us that time to hear the public comment and stuff like that after closed session. Yes, I hope that answered your question. Like if we didn't have any cases, yeah, we could, keep it at the bottom. But in the event that we have cases that have to go in closed session, we'll move it up top. So we could either do it before we go into closed session or do it after we come out and just set a specific time. So then
But I
people
think
can
it should be
log on.
done after the reports, no matter what. So like not as one of the first few things. So if people, if we do have closed session, that it's still done after, if we've got chairperson report and commissioners report, that it's done after those in case people have comments about those.
Oh, you're meaning like in reference to the actual reports
Yeah.
that will be provided. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And then too, I'm sure this is going to change as well. I guess as far as potentially instructor, Dr. Mylan, I know you could probably speak to that, or the staff as far as like the agenda creation, where I mean we could potentially move it around. We have the ability to move it around, I guess, if we go in a closed session early and then bump those reports down to after we come out of closed session. That might be an option too. So then that way we're not. Because where did Louisa go? Because what we used to do was we would actually start off our meetings in closed session, and then we would go to open.
I think it still makes sense to have closed session at the end. Otherwise, members of the public aren't really going to know when to be here, if that makes sense, because they're not going to, if we say start time's 4 and we don't know if closed session is going to be for 30 minutes or an hour, they don't know whether to get here at 4:30 or 5. So still keeping closed session at the end, just moving the public comments as the thing right before closed session. So it's like public comments, then closed session. Does that make sense?
May I say something?
Yeah.
At the time when we were doing that, when we went to closed sessions, that's when the investigators presented their investigative reports to the board. So when we went into open session, the investigator would then give a general report to the public as to, without mentioning names, basically give an overview of what the complaint was about and also stating how the board voted on that complaint. So the public got that information, because if we have because we already knew what the board was going to say and how they were going to vote. So we was able to share that with the public. at that time. So we had, like I said, with a link for the board, and then we had another link for the open for the public. And at that time, we didn't take it over. We knew we had a time frame. We got in there and did what we had to do. And at 5 o'clock, it was back on with the public. And then we reported everything we talked in general of what we talked about in closed session.
Could I ask something? Could we have two public comments? One right before closed session and one is the last thing we do?
Well, the only reason that I would say not trying to hold two is because you run into the risk of having people get on, and then they're on, people that do get on time, people that don't get on time, and then we go into closed session, and then they're waiting on the other link because we're on another separate link that is the closed session. So it's almost like we'll probably talk more about it, Harrison, so I can kind of explain it a little bit more detail to you for how it actually works with the technology and like how we are navigating, looking at the information, I guess, in reference to what's placed in the box, how many cases, to know how much time we're going to need to be in closed session. So I would say you all will find out once we're able to do it, and you'll see it in real time, then we'll be able to make those necessary adjustments. Because I think by you all potentially not doing it yet, we'll be able to, you all will be able to see exactly what it is that me and Louisa are explaining in a little bit more detail. Because right now it probably sounds crazy, like how we're explaining it, like how the process works with the two separate links and then the time slots and all that. So yeah, I think once you all see how it actually works, you'll say, oh, okay, that I see why that's first or why that's later.
So, Truman, I don't understand why there's a need for two separate links. Why can't we just use a breakout room?
So that's been something that we have done for a lot of confidentiality reasons, that's why we were using the two links before, because we did not want anyone to get a hold of that separate link. So I know that was one reason why we did that, because we have a separate agenda for closed session.
And I'll say this too, when we go in the breakout room, we lost a lot of the general public. They just stopped coming back. They weren't there at all. So when we had it where we had the link where just for the public, we was there to share what we talked about for a whole hour. They're just sitting there listening to nothing for a whole hour. So that was, we lost our audience. We really did. The only thing we came back, it was just us. So we got some type of way of doing that, and that we not lose the general public.
So
yeah, and the two
as one of
links and
the
the two
general
agendas.
public at the time, I'll speak from that perspective. I think a lot of it felt like the COB staff were not using Zoom properly. Like that was the real thing. And I hope that we could get better at our Zoom skills. But my experience when we went into closed session a few meetings ago, one of the times it went well, we went into a separate room, and then it'd be great if the screen that someone joining the meeting just had the words like in closed session, and then we go back into the big meeting. But I think the community input part, that's great whenever we have the investigators come back in the end and summarize the case and then say what the findings are. If we were really diligent and prompt with making sure our meetings were posted to the city's YouTube, then that would be a great place for someone to not have to wait 2 hours for us to come out of closed session. They'll just know that by tomorrow, they can go onto YouTube and look at the end of the video and get that summary right there. And that's one of the great advantages of technology. Because when we first started this board, I would have to sit in another room while you all had a meeting of indefinite length, and then at some point come back over, right? So now we have this wonderful tool, and I would encourage us to use it that way. So we put people into a breakout room, and we'll know exactly who's in there based on the fact that they're in there with us, so no one can use the link to sneak in. And then whenever the closed part is over, we'll go back to the general lobby where all of the other St. Louisans will possibly be waiting and possibly not, do our debrief there, still on the recording. And then all of this is on YouTube, like other boards for the city, and people will be able to find the information there. And if they don't want to watch the video, they can read the summary and the notes, which will be posted at some point. That would be my proposal.
Thank you for your suggestion, Keith. I'm sure the staff will figure out something, and whatever option works best for them is gonna more than likely be whichever one they choose. Because of course, with technology and all of that, from my understanding, I believe it's one person currently in the office that like facilitates these, Dr. Mylan.
Yeah, that's what you mean.
Yeah. So,
I just wanted to point out, as Louisa indicated, next month will be the presentation of cases. That will be done in closed session. The staff is planning to present 10 cases. And in recognition of time considerations, I would suggest that we try to move through the business of the agenda within a half an hour period, which would give the board from 4:30 possibly up to for an hour for the presentation of the cases and their discussion.
yeah, absolutely.
Is that acceptable, Madam Chair?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
we'll
how
work on
we,
that.
yeah, that's how we previously did it before. And then when we notify the public, we give them that specific time for them to, you know what I mean? So they're not waiting, saying, okay, we return from closed session at this time. And there have been times that we've had to do a hard stop on cases before just to make sure that we were available. So,
Okay, good to know.
all right. Okay, just making sure I didn't see anybody's hands up on the screen. Okay, Harrison, you had new business. Is there any other new business? Okay, okay. All right, so our next meeting, let me double check my calendar and make sure I have the right date and make sure we're not on. So our next meeting is actually scheduled for July 21st. Is that date still acceptable for everyone? Jennifer, how about you? I see Derek nodding, Harrison nodding. I think Keith's checking his calendar. Are we missing? Oh, and then Kristen's on. Oh, there's Brad. I was just looking for him too. He knew it.
July 21st works for me.
Okay. So our next meeting will be July 21st. Of course, the time, I guess it'd be a tentative, depending on, since we know it's going to be at least 10 dropped in the box. So I'm sure we'll communicate the exact time, or are you wanting to like start at 4? Dr. Mylan?
Starting at 4 is good. We'll start
Okay.
at 4 o'clock.
Okay, so
Is
July
that on
20.
Zoom again? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll start our meeting July 21st at 4:00 p.m. and we will go ahead and adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
One question, this is a Zoom meeting on July 21st?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I
Is there a
motion to
motion?
adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming today. And we appreciate you all. Make sure you all have a good rest of the week and June